Boom. Shaka-laka boom. My headphones were just a little loud there. You've tuned in to the free-range human show of choice, your daily dose of reality radio. This is the Clay Edwards Show. I'm, of course, Clay Edwards, coming at you live on 103.9 FM, WYAB, streaming worldwide, WYAB.com, as well as the TuneIn app and Alexa. Just search WYAB. We're also in stunning HD. Stunning HD at Save JXN on Facebook, X, YouTube, and Rumble. Just search WYAB. I sat here running my mouth with Chip Matthews and didn't quite get set all the way up. The intro snuck up on me there. I hope everybody's having a good morning. I'm going to have a guest in here in a few minutes. He's running just a couple minutes behind. So we're going free. I can't really say that word that I want to say. We're just going to free wing it here for a segment. What is going on around here this morning? Good show yesterday with Sean Yurtkaran and Zach Service. Got a lot of good feedback from Zach. That's a smart kid. I mean, can't do anything but keep it real with y'all. I don't foresee a path to victory for him, but that's of no fault of his own. I think he's got a plan. He's an intelligent kid. He's naive is not the word I'm looking for, but he's just green with understanding just how screwed up Jackson politics are and all of the grifters that come out of the woodwork every couple of years and do all this nonsense. And it's just part of it. I dealt with it when I first came on the scene, learning who was who and getting my name drugged through the mud. And what I realized is it doesn't matter. Like, nobody cares outside of this little weird circle of people who don't matter. Yes, thank you, Fred. The word I was looking for, he's novice. He's a novice. Maybe a little better than green. The Guns and Gear text line, 769-241-1944. The Mazda of Jackson phone line, 601-879-0002. I was just telling Chip Matthews, I said, man, I don't know what happened to all the crazy people that used to call this show. Do I need to just start paying some crazy person to call in? Or pretend to be crazy at least? They just don't wake up early enough anymore, do they? They're just so drunk. We beat them down so bad that they just stay up all night drinking their sorrows away, having to understand that Trump is their daddy and that all their Democrat BS doesn't work. You know, like I said, when I get up here, I speak in nothing but facts. And they don't like that. They do not like that because they can call you racist. They can call you do all this, do all that, try to scare you away. Then they realize they just look them dead in the eye. F you. I shared a meme on my Instagram yesterday. It's like the white guy, kind of cartoon figure with the beard and the blonde hair. Looks kind of like I hate to make this analogy because Proud Boys weren't racist. They were anti-liberal. And you can't be anti-liberal without being a racist. The black leader of the Proud Boys was not racist. The Proud Boys were not a race group. They were a F Joe Biden group. But anyway, he looks like Gavin McInnes, one of the founders of the Proud Boys. And it's got a black lady, typical militant, black lady that spews all the Democrat propaganda. We'll call her Rakia Lumumba for the sake of this conversation. It's got Rakia Lumumba facing Clay Edwards. And it says 2015. And she calls him a racist. And he says, wait, what? What did I do to be a racist? I have black friends. I have friends that have black friends. I went to the barbecue one time. Then it goes down. I may have added something to that. Then it goes down to the And it says 2024, and she's calling him a racist again. He goes, F you. Unedited, of course. Unedited, of course. Gotta tell my guest where the key is at so we can get in down here. Now, bear with me 1 second. All right. When you're on the air, live radio is live radio. This morning's guest is going to be in here in just a second. SHUWASKI Young. We've had SHUWASKI on here before. SHUWASKI, black dude that was once a Democrat here in Mississippi and converted over to the Republican Party. And I'll be honest, initially I had my suspicions about it. How did I feel about him? Was it legit? And I think that's fair to ask anytime somebody does that. But he got a cosign after the last time he was on my show from somebody I absolutely 100% trust and is absolutely 100% not a grifter on any level, and that is my good friend Topher, another Marine, a veteran, and all that good stuff. And Topher co-signed on SHUWASKI and said after he heard him on the show that he had no doubts that he was legitimate. And when Topher co-signs on you, that's as good as gold for me. As good as gold for me. Sorry, we're just getting his headphones set up here, guys. Bear with us, and I'll have him on camera next segment. Let's see. SHUWASKI, you there? You live? Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Good. How you doing this morning, brother? Man,
I'm doing great. Just got off the road. There was a little bit of folks getting pulled over this morning coming into Floral. So
really?
Yeah.
Really?
Over by the middle school.
Oh, coming in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now I'm not much for like folks running radar on the interstate in the mornings and stuff.
Yeah.
Just because if you ain't hauling butt, you're getting ran over.
Right.
But close to schools and in residential areas and all that, yeah, you can't be speeding.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's always interesting when
come closer to that mic. I'll pull it to you.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you're behind the sheriff car, right? And there's a car in front of the sheriff car. And those folks are making sure that if the speed limit is 55, they're going 53.
Yes.
Right? So for about 6 miles, that's what we were dealing with.
Well, what do you do?
Right. Follow the law.
Exactly. Now, if it's a sheriff car, they don't have radar. But, and I don't know. Better safe than sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to be the one to fall on the sword saying, well, I assume we're going 57, 58.
Mm-hmm.
But because, look, when Byram first got their police department, they were pulling people over going 1 mile over the speed limit on Sidewell, which is the main drag through Byram there.
Yeah.
And they were not fixing tickets for anybody. I remember one of the lieutenants for the sheriff's department, a good friend of mine, she got a ticket going 1 mile over, and they would not pull it far.
1 mile.
1 mile.
I wonder how that worked out for her in court.
I don't know.
Or if she went to court. At least she just
I'm
paid.
sure she did. I can't imagine that all those tickets had to be paid. I mean, surely some got thrown out.
I mean, 1 mile, that's
I mean, you would have to set your cruise.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still going to be some variance.
Mm-hmm.
Just in these vehicles. I mean, I think, man, if you're keeping it within 2, 3, 4, 5 miles an hour, especially when the speed limit's like 50.
Sure.
Or even 35 that was the thing where they did it was a 5-lane road, 2 lanes on each side and a turn lane in the middle.
Yeah.
And they set it to like 35. That's just too slow.
I agree. And I just wonder if it's actually true. Some folks used to say that, the police or law enforcement would give you about 5 to 7 miles.
That's what I've always heard.
But I don't know how true that is. Obviously, in this case, with the 1 mile over,
that
didn't work for that person. So.
Well, I'll say this. I know that I have going down I-20, especially through Rankin County. Those Flowwood, they work that area from the Stack up to Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been times that I know I was cruising through around 80 or so, and I didn't get pulled over. So that's a good 10-mile variance there.
Okay. So the speed limit is what, 70?
70 through certain parts.
Going
east. We're coming east and west. Basically,
okay.
I think it gets up to 70 once you get past like the exits.
Uh-huh.
But as you get closer to exit, I think it slows down. Don't quote me on that, but
wow.
Yeah, I know it gets up to 70 there.
Well, they let you get out there and get it then.
Yeah, well, what's confusing to me is like Highway 80 in Brandon. So talking about what a conversation I didn't plan on getting on, but I bet you this is stuff people relate to.
Right. Yeah.
So I live right there in downtown Brandon. Highway 80 changes names to West Government Boulevard.
Yeah, it does. I've gone that way before.
And at 2 lanes.
Yeah.
And then right as soon as you get on the other side of downtown, it gets back up to 50 miles an hour on a 2-lane road.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just thinking, like, man, this is a 2-lane road at 50. And because I caught myself going like 40 and cars are packed up behind me. I looked up, oh, crap, it's 50 miles an hour here.
Yeah, speed
This
up.
was just the other night. I didn't even realize it was 50 there. But I say all that to say, if it can be 50 miles an hour on that 2-lane, why is it 35 on this 5-lane? Talking about the one in Byron.
That's ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
and there are no schools in that particular area.
No, not now.
Okay.
Not now.
Okay.
There's very few neighborhoods, so it's really just kind of a long, straight stretch.
Mm-hmm.
But people will get to hauling ass through there,
Yeah.
Going 70, 80. I understand that.
Sure.
And maybe you fight that by saying, we're going to keep it so low that if you do that, you're doubling the speed limit, you're going to do reckless driving, all that. I mean, I'm not a fan of people driving fast. I don't want nobody to get hurt or whatever. But I think there's a happy medium there where you got to let adults be adults. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I understand if it's a school zone or something like that, but in many other cases, folks are, really in a rush trying to get to their jobs in the morning time. Heck, even me this morning, I came in a different way than I've ever came before on Highway 22. Off of the Nissan Parkway, coming in off of 16 from up in Neshoba County.
Yeah. And
I had never driven through there before. There are some beautiful homes throughout that entire stretch of Highway 22 between when you turn off from the Nissan Parkway into going into the city of Floral.
Yeah, it is, man.
It's there are some beautiful homes out there.
There's some older homes, there's some newer homes.
Mm-hmm.
There's some money out there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Madison County got some money.
Yeah,
some old money and some new money.
Well, it was clear. It was very clear.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. It's a blessing to see it. I'll tell you that much.
Well, you understand why Madison County is the richest county in the state and one of the richest in the country.
Enlighten me.
I'm saying it's just like literally.
It is.
Yeah. I'm just saying you start seeing them big old houses.
Well, sure.
And
when you see it,
you start seeing it. It's like there's a reason why.
Right.
But it's safe. Maybe I'm saying that wrong. There's not a reason why.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why you see them big houses. It's because
they have money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me re-articulate that. All right, man. Let's do this, man. We got SHUWASKI
Young. We love
Young
Madison
in here.
County.
Oh yeah, I love Madison. I love Madison and Rankin County. Used to love Hinds County, but Hinds County don't love Snoop Dogg no more. Remember that? I remember when Snoop got him on the Source Award, and like, East Coast don't love Snoop Dogg no more.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in when the whole East Coast, West Coast thing was going.
That's how I feel about Hinds County and Jackson. They're like, Jackson don't love Clay Edwards no more.
They talking about you bad, man.
Man, they've been talking about me bad. They just don't. The truth hurts sometimes, and I'm just here to give them their daily dose of tough love.
Yeah, misunderstandings happen.
It is what it is. Well, look, let's take a break. We got SHUWASKI Young here in the studio. Man, we're gonna be chopping it up this morning. He did an op-ed recently, another op-ed on the Clarion Ledger website, I guess it's just a website now. They don't have physical papers anymore. But it was a really good op-ed. I got a chance to read it last night. And it just goes back to the drum he's been beaten about the Democrat Party not representing Mississippi values and not representing black Mississippians' values anymore. But for some reason, folks are still drawn to it like a moth to a flame. Yeah. And we're going to unpack that and more this morning. We'll be right back here on The Clay Edwards Show. Welcome back into The Clay Edwards Show, here live with my good friend and yours, Mr. SHUWASKI Young, here in the studio with us. Let me get his camera tuned in there. There we go. On 103.9 FM WYAB. Man, it's good to be back in the studio this morning.
Absolutely.
Mr. Young and myself were just talking about my guest yesterday, or Sean and I's guest, Zach Service, on here yesterday, and he really held his own. Mm-hmm. And I think that guys like that, I was talking, before you got in here, I was like, man, he's always got a puncher's chance. Anything can happen, especially when you got a race with 22 people in it.
Is it still that many?
Yeah. Maybe 21 now. I think one was a felon and couldn't run. Mm-hmm. Maybe 2 couldn't run. Let's just say 20.
And somebody was disqualified because of, I believe, residency or something like that.
Yeah, so I think 2 were disqualified.
2, yeah.
So 20 people still in this thing. Mm-hmm. And then the mayor with all the stuff he's going through.
Right.
So you got John Horn. He seems to be the odds-on favorite. I still think Chokwe's going to pull it out.
You think people are still going to go back and vote him in again?
Yeah. And I hope they prove me wrong.
Well, and I think election's next week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least on the Democrat primary anyway, yeah. Well, the primaries are next week, but I don't even think we got well, there are 2 Republicans running.
Yeah, yeah. For the municipal elections throughout the entire state, I believe it's next week.
Yeah, April 1st.
But, I've pay somewhat attention to all politics, of course, in Mississippi.
Sure.
And I've seen the forums that they've been having and things of that nature. I've seen a lot of the online social media, as it relates to that particular race. And it seems like people are still following the mayor. It does seem that. I can see exactly why you say that. I'm quite surprised, I don't know why that is. And it's shocking, to be quite honest with you.
Stockholm Syndrome.
Well, I mean, I obviously, the legacy that, the mayor has in Jackson has been one of which that has been appreciated by some. And I guess that's why, they are seemingly showing the numbers, that they're showing.
Well, and to that I want to say this. That you can't hone in on a single thing positive that they've done for the city. Every measurable statistic, anything you can look at to grade job quality for what you would think a mayor should be able to do is drastically negative. Mm-hmm. I mean, but he plays to the emotional side of a certain group of folks, and that's just all that matters is I'm fighting the man.
Well, I think that's exactly what is, I think, a truth throughout, many folks in the Democratic Party in Mississippi today, Benny Thompson included. These particular aspects of how they actually exploit conversations. Everything is about, hey, we're still stuck in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. We've had no advancement, in our state. And, this fight that has been, part of our history, a well-deserved fight, a well-noted fight, and a much-needed fight. Those accomplishments are somehow still needed to be made again.
Yeah.
And the advancements where we left off on those accomplishments somehow never happened. And I think they use those types of conversations to,
So it's like the 90s never happened.
Right.
And I mean, so I had a video go viral on my TikTok and Instagram and all that, and it was titled, "Why is Black Gen X so mad?" Mm-hmm. And because these are the guys I grew up with. Mm-hmm. And I know what our race relations were like in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, up to the late 2000s there. We had great race relations.
Yeah.
I legitimately mean that. I'm not saying that there still wasn't racism out and about, but I grew up in Jackson. Mm-hmm. Maybe in the rural areas. Sure, I didn't grow up in the rural area.
Yeah.
I grew up in Jackson. And I grew up watching, the old "don't believe your lying eyes" saying, man, I just didn't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw incidents of racism, but
generally
speaking, the supremacy wasn't running wild.
Right.
In 2000, in the 90s and 2000s, even the late 80s. Mm-hmm. Even in Mississippi. I mean, I spent the night with black friends. Black friends spent the night with me. I had more posters of black people on my walls than white people. Mm-hmm. And I know I'm not the only person.
Yeah.
I think, what people get mad at me when I say stuff like that, but like Michael Jordan broke a lot of barriers down, like post civil rights, like as far as like young white kids looking up to a black superstar, and I could go on and on. The music and the rise of hip hop culture, and what that did to. I was talking about it on my show the other night, my little podcast I do at home. I went from wanting to be a long-haired '80s rock star. In like 89, 90, I went to 12. But you know what I mean? Just kid, I having all these Motley Crue and Poison guys on my wall that all look like women.
Right on.
But they went trans, not like that. It's like, like I just want to make sure I'm clear there. In the 80s, and in the 80s, the more you look like a chick, the more chicks you got.
Sure. Sure.
But, and then rock music transitioned, there's that word, transitioned to grunge and really depressing and that Seattle, and a lot of those guys are doing heroin and falling out dead. And I never really got into that music. I like it now.
Yeah.
I can appreciate it now.
So were you a Nirvana fan?
Well, everybody liked Teen Spirit.
Right.
Like it was one of those songs, it's kind of like Ice Ice Baby in my opinion. Nirvana's a one-hit wonder. Mm-hmm. I know they sold a bunch of albums, but at the end of the day, Nirvana's a one-hit wonder, and people don't like hearing that because Kurt Cobain is this generation's Jim Morrison, and all that. But at the end of the day, Nirvana's a one-hit wonder.
The whole 27 Club thing, and I actually like rock. I do too. The Police and all that stuff. But back to where I don't like to digress or whatnot. But in growing up in rural Mississippi, in central Mississippi, for me, I didn't see that either. You know, and I talked about even when I ran for office before and just general conversations.
So even in Neshoba County.
Well, I grew up in Neshoba County and Winston County.
That's right.
Right. My mother's side is from Neshoba County. My dad's is from Winston County. So I graduated high school in Noxapater, Mississippi.
Give me 30 seconds to finish this thought, because the music, I was going somewhere with the music thing, and I don't want to have to circle back to it. So I went from wanting to be an 80s hair metal guy to skipping straight from that to being a diehard hip hop fan.
Okay.
I didn't go to grunge.
Okay.
I heard NWA.
Okay.
The N-Words for Life.
Sure.
And Straight Outta Compton, just all that, and that changed my life forever.
That's the name of the group.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
And it was on after that.
All right.
And then of course I was a Run DMC fan and some of that stuff.
So very old school.
Yeah,
Got
but keep in mind I'm 47. So 91, 92, I was just getting my driver's license, starting to kind of be less of a kid and turn into a teenager, because I got my driver's license at 15 then.
Yeah.
So we were out running the roads at 14 because we all had a friend that was 15 that had a license.
Right.
And we had our little lowriders with our sound systems and all that stuff, man. And
back in the day. Yeah.
And so we just jumped all in on like black culture, hip hop culture, and loved it, man. We were running around.
Had the audio systems in your
vehicle, and I know,
down the street.
And, I know that can feel like I'm just belittling black culture to just music, but it was way more than that.
No, I understand what
we were all
from.
over. Yeah. And, we wanted to be around our black friends, like actively, and also I just did not experience racism from people in my circle, or to people in my circle. Now, I have a brother who's a black guy, and I mean, I saw some really, really bad racist stuff happen when we were together one time. Just some words that got said, and then we beat the crap out of that guy. But I mean, yes, I understand, and I have seen people be racist. But generally speaking, as a whole, right? In the 90s and 2000s. That's not what I saw through my lens.
By and large, that is not the daily, attitude of people.
Yeah,
and I think that's true today.
And that was even in Jackson. And then you're saying in rural Mississippi. Nothing you can pick back up. I just wanted to put a bookend to that music thing.
Well, thank you for sharing that. In rural Mississippi where I grew up, in Winston, and of course I lived in Jackson as a child until I was about maybe 8 or 9, and then my dad moved back up to the country. He used to work for the United States Department of Agriculture, as I've shared before, and he moved to another office up there as a soil conservationist, back to our home place. So I grew up in Winston in Neshoba County, East Central Mississippi, and that just wasn't the case. Nor is it the case I see today, and I think that Democratic politics wants that to continue to be the case and label, so it can be used to incite votes. It can be used to still have that barrier between us that, is part of our, dark history that we have worked so hard to get past. I was just at Super Talk Mississippi yesterday, and after the show with Gerard Gilbert. I
love Gerard.
Great guy. Great guy. We were just talking about, some of the guys on the news team and some of the sports guys, just talking about how we love Mississippi, right? And talked about, the differences in, reality versus what some people sometimes try to make as reality.
Hollywood reality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there was this one gentleman, I won't say his name, but he talked about, he had family in Iowa. He's a white guy. And that they went to go visit.
Really? I would have never guessed when you said Iowa.
Iowa, and went there to go visit some people. And then they came to Mississippi and visited them. And this lady, the group that, he, as part of his family, she had never, is what he said, she had never even seen a black person before, pretty much the entire time of her life, maybe once or twice, because of the small town in Iowa that she's not black people in Iowa like that, Yeah. So I think that, it's important when people can have these types of conversations. It's important when people can know that, hey, we all really are the same. We're Mississippians, we're Americans first. And I think that if we can get past the racial divide that I think, is big in politics because it's a way to gin up votes, and start speaking to that bear in the room. I think that a lot of people will find out that, man, I'm not going to let them just keep throwing fear tactics at me and let that be a reason for the reason why I'm going to vote Democrat and things of this nature. Because Gerard made a great point yesterday is, as President Trump had said during his campaign, like, hey, what do you got to lose, by voting Republican? What have you honestly really received or gotten from the Democratic Party that has helped you economically? Right. We don't need a party that is big on all these entitlement programs, and where they are needed, of course. Sure, the poor will always be among us, and we need to do our best to see after those folks.
Well, we have to quit incentivizing.
But we have to quit incentivizing it, right? Yep. You know, it's no one should be on welfare for 18 years, right? And raise family after family after family on welfare. We need to be able to have this empowerment of economic prosperity in our mindset and self-sufficiency in our mindset, and look at what we can do for our communities and our state, and not just what those states and communities can do for us.
Yeah, I was in finance for a long time in the car business, and you'd be amazed at how often you would see government assistance, and I don't mean SSI, you know, like welfare, people putting it down as like their income. You can't use it. But just the fact that if you're on welfare and you're out here trying to buy a car.
Well, you got to move, you know.
Well, yeah, but, you know, you find a job.
That too.
Yeah, I mean,
that too.
Look, there is public transportation.
That too. I think that we're talking about people who are able-bodied, that do not have disabilities, either physical or mental.
100%.
And we're talking about children.
Yep.
And we're talking about senior citizens. Everyone else need to be on W-2 form or working for yourself.
100%. And man, there's so many, they call it the gig economy. The gig economy, like Uber driving, all that kind of stuff. And
well, those are 1099 employees.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. They're 1099. They're self-employed as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. I mean, I'm self-employed.
Yeah.
I mean, I do this at a radio station, but this is C. Edwards Incorporated. You know?
Absolutely. Right.
And, you know, there's
American dream, baby.
There's so much you can do now. I mean, I went from doing the car business for 12 years, having never talked into a microphone for the most part, to having a full-time job hosting a radio show.
Yeah.
You put your mind to something.
Ain't it grand?
It is.
Yeah.
You know, it's phenomenal. And I did it in my 40s.
Yeah.
You know, with no training, which, I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah. hey, you do well, sir. You
I
do
appreciate it.
You're honest.
You know, well, I came from drug addiction and, you know, living at my parents' way longer than I should have, on and off, you know, because I couldn't keep my finances straight, to just everything, to finally, it's just like, you know, you get like a demolition ball comes flying through, and just a wrecking ball, and you get to a crossroads, and you got to decide, all right, the lottery ain't happening,
right?
You know,
this is up to me.
I got to figure it out.
Right.
So for me, it was getting in the car business and getting up and going to work every day for 12 years, because I've been in the nightclub business for years and years before that, and you know, so I had like this growth. My growth was stunted.
Yeah,
like professionally and mentally, from 25 years old, 24 years old, when I got to do that very successfully at high levels for 12 years, to then in my mid-30s, all that went away, and I wasn't prepared financially for that going away, and I had to get up and do something. And, you know, that resume looked pretty blank, even though I'd had a very successful career for 12 years. But I didn't want to go wait tables. I didn't want to go cook. I didn't want to do that anymore, you know. And then I had to, like, man, I just wake up one day and go start at the bottom at a dealership. And I was not a guy. I didn't come naturally. I struggled for the first 3 years, man. And if it hadn't been for my parents, let me live with them. Yeah, there's no telling where I'd be, or dead, whatever, you know. Or maybe, I don't know. Maybe I would have found some more grit and tried a little harder if I.
You would have.
If I knew I didn't have a roof over my head. So there is always that option too, but I don't like to try to give myself that much credit. You know?
Well, I'll tell you what, and one thing I heard in that story, and thank you for sharing that with me, I didn't know that about you, is that, you know, we have the opportunity to take control of our own lives. And that's what, of course, you just
That's why I tell that
did,
story. That's why I don't take people's stories of woe is me.
Right.
If they're physically able.
Yeah.
Like, it ain't because you're black, it ain't because you're this, it ain't because you're that, it's because you're lazy.
It's you, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, you talk about tough love. I mean, and that's the same thing that, you know, we get from our parents if you're so fortunate to have those types of parents, you know, and I'll share this example, you know, because what we're talking about here, I think in a broader aspect is, you know, we live in a country where, man, whatever you want, you really can get after it with it if you have that particular, need to cut.
Hold that thought. We're going to pick up right there. We ran 6 minutes over. When the conversation's going, man, it's going good. We'll be right back with SHUWASKI Young on the Clay Edwards Show.
Hi, Kim Wade here. Are you craving a home-cooked meal without the hassle? Come over to McBee's Bar and Grill in Ridgeland for their Blue Plate lunch specials. Served up every weekday, at McBee's is a different entree every day. Chicken spaghetti on Mondays, beef tip Tuesday, pork chop Wednesday, spaghetti Thursday, and catfish Fridays. And McBee's Blue Plate Lunch comes with 2 classic Southern sides and cornbread or a roll. McBee's specials are served every weekday from 11 to 2. McBee's, buzzing the res since 1982.
Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show, here live on 103.9 FM. This segment brought to you by our good friends over at Huey Magoo's. Did you know that Huey Magoo's is, in fact, the filet mignon of chicken? At Huey Magoo's, they serve up only the top 3% of premium chicken tenderloins. Huey Magoo's handcrafted tenderloins are also marinated for 24 hours. Guys, that's how I cook my chicken and steak at home, is I marinate it for 24 hours. And they're taking the time to do that at a quote-unquote fast food chicken strip joint. I'm telling you, it's good. Look, it's cooked to perfection, and you and your family will love the difference. You'll taste the difference as well. Huey Magoo's is not your ordinary chicken tender restaurant. They also serve wraps, sandwiches, salads, and meals. You hungry yet? You know you are. Visit their location today on Bass Pro Drive in Flowood. That's right there at the Highway 80 entrance into the outlet mall, right across from that QT truck stop. And then right there on Flowood Drive, or Lakeland Drive, in Flowood, right there along the chicken strip, as they call it. You can't miss it. Huey Magoo's, right over there across from, pretty much across from Walmart. My buddy Chris is the general manager over there, or district manager, or something like that. And I was having lunch with somebody yesterday from Pearl, and we weren't eating there, but we were eating at Martin's downtown, and we were talking about, our meal plans and how to kind of we ate dirty yesterday, as we call it, but we try to eat clean more times than not. And I said, man, I'm going to tell you a little cheat code. Huey Magoo's grilled chicken tenders are the best grilled chicken tenders I've ever had from like a drive-through fast food type place. They're real juicy.
Oh, wow.
You get a grilled chicken tender from somewhere, it's really dry.
Yeah.
Even nice restaurants, the chicken breast, if you get the grilled, it's usually dry.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you overcook white meat, 5 seconds. It's at that point. Not Huey Magoo's, man. They really are good. Like, you can just go get a tray of them to go and eat on them for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're just really trying to lose weight and you ain't got a lot of time and you want something to taste good,
that's good stuff.
Good cheat code there. You look like you've lost some weight.
I have. I've been really, focused on making sure I'm working out, as much as I can, trying to eat as good as I can as well too.
It can't be perfect, but if you can do it more times than not, you'll win.
I hope so. That's the plan. Yeah. So what I'm doing really, I try to eat clean as possible as well too, and making sure that all my levels are where they should be as far as vitamin D, magnesium, and all that stuff.
It's important.
Yeah.
They tell you that when you're young, but you don't really understand it, and you start getting older, and you get your levels checked. We got that sponsor, Men's Health in Mississippi, and you go out there, they do those free screenings for testosterone, but they look for other stuff too because they want to make sure they're getting your stuff right. It's worth it, even if you don't get the testosterone or sign up for the membership, just to have the conversation about where your levels are at on everything, so you know.
The more you know about your body is important.
Just going through life not knowing, that just seems ridiculous to me. And I did that for a long time. Well, now it seems like, wow, I can't believe I did that.
Right. A lot of folks, especially men in the South, we do that. We think we're all, Superman and nothing can happen to us until it actually happens. And don't particularly like going to the doctor sometimes, and
you don't want that bad news.
Right. Give me the news so I can get on top of it. Things change after you hit 40.
Well, yeah, because you start seeing friends get cancer and this, that, and the other, and it was avoidable if they had caught it earlier, and a lot of stuff like that. And man, you start losing a friend or two. You see them go through that battle. How can I avoid that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Picking back up where we left off.
We
got about 3 minutes for our next break.
Let's do it.
So you were saying. Growing up, we were talking about racism. I forget exactly where we left off there. Yeah. But do you recall?
I do.
All right, good.
Yeah, growing up, for me in Central Mississippi, folks were, really close, I think. We all played football together, baseball together, came up through the stretches together and things like that nature. And I think later on, when, you go to college and you get out of college, you get started with life, you are in different segments of society at that particular point. And, the influences of your upbringing always, seem to stick with you. But sometimes through affiliations of other people, you can get involved in, conversations that you rather not get involved into. And I think that sometimes, we can misinterpret what it is that we should be actually thinking and doing when it comes to how we're treating other people. And I think that with the politics of what we have today, people capitalize on that. That's where the fear comes in. That's why you see, every conversation dealing with President Trump or dealing with the Republican Party, is based in some level of race and some level of inequity, and things of that nature.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
And I've been saying this for a long time, especially maybe it's just in the South. I don't know. Maybe it's I feel like it's nationwide. I feel like the white wing of the Republican, white wing of the Republican Party overcompensates for looking for and accepting black members, or black folks to come.
I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from.
Like it's the complete opposite of racism. Like it's like, finally.
Yeah.
Finally, somebody believes us.
Right.
Right.
Please. We're not Darth Vader.
No.
Right?
Yeah, it's like to overcompensate with kindness and open arms. And I would be willing to bet that's probably been your experience on a level. It's just like
so. I would say it this way. I think this. When I joined the Republican Party, some of the one of the first people that reached out to me was Senator Roger Wicker and let me know that he welcomed me into the party with open arms and wanted to meet with me as soon as we could get it on schedule, and we did do that. Later, I met with leaders of the party downtown here in Jackson.
Mike Hirsch, Rance Bilbo, the whole crew.
Yep.
Great guys.
Great guys. And then I got plugged into the infrastructure of the Republican Party, such as going to county executive committee meetings and that nature. I started up in North Mississippi with all the first congressional district chairs, and then got seated in my own county, in Neshoba County. I'm about to take a leadership role in that particular county executive committee in Neshoba County, and Chris Stokes is our chair there. Heck, we had a meeting on Tuesday night, and I think that in those particular instances, both in that first Republican meeting and also the one that has just happened recently, the welcome from people in the room who are super excited and super welcoming to see someone else in that particular room who's not white, right? Actually, be a part of that Republican Party meeting.
Well, I think in the South, and we got to take our last break at this hour here. I think in the South, we live with the scars of the past.
We do.
They're very visible, especially for folks my age and younger. We weren't a part of that.
No,
but we had to wear those scars, and we still get called racist to this day, and this, that, and the other. Anytime something goes somebody's way, so when you see somebody that understands that and wants to come and at least hear what we have to say. Even if you were a Democrat, still coming here having this conversation today, we'd be still having the same respectful conversation because I want to talk to you.
Sure.
And have an opportunity to have a real conversation with somebody. And I've never told anybody legitimate no about coming on this show and having a conversation. As long as you can sit here and act like men and not scream at each other.
Exactly.
No reason not to. Let's take our last break. Online audience, don't go nowhere. We're going to keep this conversation rolling online. Radio, don't change that dial. We will be right back. Take your headphones off for this.
Okay.
Yeah, because for whatever reason, like during the breaks, when we talk online, all you hear is what's coming through there, which is the commercials.
Right on. So, yeah, but we're pushing online right now.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So we're streaming online now. So I had somebody ask here in the comments. You have announced what you're running for, right? Have you?
No.
You hadn't. Okay. I didn't think so. I didn't think so. But you're obviously not doing this for shits and giggles. I mean, there's a motive behind a method behind the madness. And we're gonna see you run for something statewide or going to DC or
something. I think that's a high possibility. That I will run. When and what office. That's going to be determined.
TBA.
Yeah. Pretty much, but for the most part, right now, what I'm doing is making sure that people get an opportunity to, get to know me as a Republican.
Yeah.
That has always been planned. That is the reason why I did not run for Senator, now Justice Branning's seat in District 18, that was available right there in Neshoba County and Lee County and Winston County, which is my home district. And I actually got an opportunity to meet the candidates for that particular seat on the Republican ticket. This past Tuesday, they were at our Republican meeting in Neshoba County. And, they're all pretty good candidates, I think, and, we'll see what happens out of that race.
I don't want to belittle the position of senator or state rep. I have one of my best friends, the state rep, and I've gotten to know a lot of those people over the last few years. I think you have the potential to be something bigger than that. Well, I do, and I think Mississippi needs that.
Yeah.
Mississippi needs a black Republican in a true leadership position.
Well, I don't look to go to the State House. I think it would have been a great opportunity. Don't get me wrong, but I think it would also look a bit opportunistic if I'd have jumped in that race.
I agree.
Having just joined the party, even though I had made the announcement to leave the Democratic Party a whole year ago. But I do have my eyes set on a statewide office position.
I think you have the ability to kind of. I know what people are going to say. People are going to say, just because he's black, but I think that makes a big damn difference. And I think you have an opportunity to show people there's a new Mississippi.
Well, that's what we want to show. We want to be able to not only display who we are as a state and not just be defined by what national Democrats think our state is about, but who we know ourselves to be here within our state and who we are not. We are not a state that believes in, abortion on the hilt. We are not a state that believes in transgender rights and on the hilt to where, boys are in girls' bathrooms and participating in girls' sports and things of that nature.
Right.
We believe in a strong military. We believe
in
their
civil
communities. Rights. I believe in their civil rights, of course, right?
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
But your civil rights, and we can save this for radio, but we'll just repeat it. Your civil rights are not you being able to go play girl sports.
Exactly. That's what
we should all agree on that. That shouldn't be a left-wing, right-wing thing.
Well,
but it is.
Well, because they want to make it that way. They want to redefine the human language as we know it. And words matter, right? And facts matter. But I do think that, a statewide run will be, ultimately what I actually decide to do.
Yeah.
What office that may be for, I'm not, sure about that right
now. Hopefully it's, just for a path of least resistance, hopefully it's something where one of the incumbents are going to shoot for governor or lieutenant governor and leave something.
We'll see.
Open.
There are a lot of folks out there right now that are, potentially vying for the, the governorship. I don't know how that's going to actually work out. A
lot of them are managed by the same strategies company, Frontiers. I can't imagine them putting too many there. We're back. Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show. We got about 40 seconds here before the top of the hour break. We got SHUWASKI Young in here. If you were listening online, we were discussing SHUWASKI's future political plans. They're nothing set in stone yet, but just how important a fellow, I'll just damn say it. I don't sugarcoat. That's why you listen to this show. How important it would be for Mississippi to have a young black Republican in a statewide leadership position here, and what that could do as almost a postcard to Mississippi, and to let you know that we have come a long way. And I wouldn't vote for a black Democrat, but I wouldn't vote for a white Democrat either.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
it is what it is, right?
Yeah, but I would absolutely vote for the right black guy as a Republican. There's plenty of terrible white Republicans out there, and I ain't got no problem calling them out. But man, to overcome the past and to help make the point I've been trying to drive home for the last 4 years, I would absolutely throw my support behind you.
Well, I appreciate that very much.
Online audience, don't go nowhere. Radio will be right back in 7 minutes. I know that's the best way to word all that, but anytime I try to over-articulate, I end up sounding goofy. And I was like, man, I should talk to people like they're my boys, and
just talk. Yeah, man, it's all good. It's all good.
And sometimes I think being honest about it, like, sometimes yes, you just got to acknowledge that race is a factor, but that doesn't mean it's in a bad way.
Not in a bad way. We have to acknowledge it, right?
Yeah, just acknowledge. Like, look, there's a reason why we're doing what we're doing, and it makes a difference.
I think also, look, I've been a Democrat before and was for the better part of my career in life. I know the strategies.
Yeah.
I helped write them. One of the best people actually that helped write strategies for them. And I'll say that I do think that, oftentimes some things are done in a way, not that people actually believe it. It is a stepping stone toward a bigger purpose.
Sure.
Right? And that's strategy for anyone. But I want to be able to, say that we are in a state and in a place right now, where we can, show other people in our country who we really are as a state. And I think that's important.
I couldn't agree more. I told you last night, I've been sitting up here for the last 4 years, feel like I'm trying to talk to, not at, black Mississippians, especially in Jackson, about what's going on in Jackson, and say, look, guys, I know you're getting beat upside the head and you're being told that all of these problems are because of white flight. All of these problems are because the state won't fund this. That's not. There's a culture problem right now, and people are not. Y'all are misdiagnosing the problem,
Right.
and you're never going to fix it if you continue to misdiagnose it. Just like what we talked about going to the doctor. The doctor's telling people what they want to hear, not what they need to hear, and I'm here to tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear.
Right.
And sometimes you got to be like a bull in the china shop, and do things a little less articulate to get through to some knuckleheads.
Well, I think that you're right, and I also think that there is a problem when there is a growing, understood sentiment that has become reality where people feel afraid just to go get gas at a store.
You know, that's half my platform is Jackson Gas
I've
Stations.
heard you talk about it as well, too.
You know, I mean, that is not a myth by no means.
No.
I know you know it's not. I'm just, you know. But
right. And
you run a 50-50 chance of not leaving that gas pump every time you pull up to one at the Jackson Gas Station.
Well, and if you look at it or follow, and I highly recommend people do this, like if you just look at the Jackson news stations, WLBT, APT, and
JTV,
JTV,
LBT, APT.
all of them, and you look at their websites on a daily basis, it is nothing but stories. Of course, there are more than this, but the top stories every day, there is a new murder, there is a new robbery, or some type of homicide that has taken place in Jackson on a daily basis. Where when you're looking at the news, it's so disheartening, and you wonder, why is it this way? You know, and I think that, you know, one, Jackson definitely needs new leadership, you know, and two, it needs a stern hand of leadership at this particular point. And they need to be able to build relationships with people on the Capitol Hill here in Jackson. And they need to turn out in other parts of the Delta and other parts of the congressional district, too, to offset it. Because every year his point margin goes down. We see this, you know, and I think it's possible that he can be unseated.
No disrespect to the people who have ran against Benny, but he has not had a real challenger in a long time.
I think people are that I would wholeheartedly agree with, but I think also it's
somebody that crosses over and can talk to
everyone. All the people within that.
We get a lot of white guys that come in and they try to run for that, and they're okay candidates. The white folks all get behind them, but no black folks do.
Right. And I think,
and it's just you're going into a fight with one hand tied behind your back.
Exactly.
We're getting ready to come back live. Okay. Boom goes the dynamite. It's hour 2 of the most incendiary show on the RADIO. That's right, I can spell radio. That GD ain't never stopped me. I can spell radio. We're here live.
Getting it done.
Getting it done. Here live with SHUWASKI Young on WYAB. This segment brought to you by our good friends over at A1 Gear and Auto. You got to swing by there today if you have any automotive issues over there in Florence, Mississippi, Highway 49 South. And see Justin and his team. They're going to get it diagnosed right the first time. It's going to be fixed on time and on budget every time. I always say it, man, it just matters. It just matters when they tell you your car is going to be ready. You're down a vehicle. You're having to negotiate rides, get Ubered, borrow a vehicle, whatever it is. If Justin tells you that car is going to be ready a week from today on Tuesday, or what's today, Thursday, a week from today on Thursday at 2 o'clock, you can get dropped off there Thursday on 2 o'clock and know it's going to be ready unless he's otherwise notified you they ran into some unforeseen circumstances. You don't get that everywhere. You don't. We've all been caught up, you know, waiting, trying to figure out a vehicle because it wasn't ready on time. A1, not going to be a problem over there. And here, look, you know they can fix anything from your check engine, diagnosing the check engine light, your brakes, rebuild your motor. But what they really specialize in, what they are the absolute leader in the area in, is your ring and pinion. That's your rear end and your front end. That's the gears to make that car or truck go up and down the road. And I know all you guys, I'm one of them. You get these trucks, you jack them up, you put these bigger tires, these bigger rims on them. Them factory ring and pinion ain't built for them 40s, them 22s with them 40s on it. Frankly, your brakes aren't either. But, you know, you're going to wear out that ring and pinion, you're going to be on the side of the road. get Justin and them, get that juiced up for you, get the right gears in there in the front and back so you can use that 4-wheel drive properly. You can use all that power. You can get up on that interstate, get down on it, and get on out of my way as I'm coming through in that Raptor. I don't want to have to go around you if I ain't got to. Anyway, A1 Gear and Auto. Check them out today. Good folks over there. All right, SHUWASKI Young here in the studio with me. Man, during the break, we were talking about Benny, Boom Boom Thompson, as I call him.
Benny Boom.
And you made some great points, and I hate for our online audience to have to hear it again, but we can kind of pick up and add to it.
Sure.
You know, you mentioned it feels like he's at war with the farmers in the Delta.
Yeah.
And Mississippi in general, in his district. I never thought about that. I'm not plugged into that aspect because it does affect my day-to-day life, but not directly. It's indirectly affects all of our day-to-day lives. Explain to people how he's at war with the farmers. And that you didn't say at war, but
sure,
for the sake of conversation here.
Sure. Well, it seems that, he has a clear disdain for the farmers. And no one really can put their finger on quite why that is.
Do we feel like it's potentially a race issue?
Well, I think many people think it could be a race issue. I think that it's the fact that, this farmland that, is a major economic engine for our particular state has, a history behind it, of course, right? And, it's very easy to spin something like that, especially when you think about plantations from the previous years and things of that nature, which is, not the case for today. But I do think that it's a very well-known fact that Benny Thompson has not been a major friend to farmers in the second congressional district in our agricultural industry, which affects our state in such a large way, right? I think right now, there is a subsidy opportunity for a lot of farmers for 2024 who have farmed or, will be farming from that particular time stamp. And it's over $1 billion for them to actually, be able to take an opportunity to help from. But
the other thing is the pumps.
Well, that too, right?
That's a huge thing that they seem like
it floods over there, big time. On
not helping the flood issue over there.
Well, and this type of money would actually help with that, right? And it's I think a study came out, or not a study, but a point came out, from a banker over in the Delta, that a lot of the farmers right now are not getting approved even for their loans at banks and stuff like that
because of the risk from flooding.
But not just because of the risk of flooding, because of the federal guidelines that have been put in place in order for them to actually qualify for it.
Gotcha.
Right? Something that he has a direct interest in. And I think that when's the last time you see him take a picture with a farmer? When's the last time you see him actually talk about the farming industry? He doesn't. Right? If you're over in the Delta, like I am a lot, you see people over there that are heavily Republican in that particular area.
Rural areas seems to be more conservative, even if you don't identify as a Republican. And this goes back to your whole point.
Yeah.
In black Mississippians in rural and urban areas, especially rural, in my opinion, very conservative people that are just kind of they don't realize they're really not Democrats.
No, I mean, well, I've done this so many different times with my own family members and friends, and I'll say, hey, look, let's just talk about a few things. Let me ask you a few questions. I'll go down the gamut of, different questions as it relates to economics, as
abortion,
it relates to all the hot button issues and more.
I love this stuff.
And at the end of that conversation, I said, well, based on your answers, you're basically a conservative. That's just what it is. And I think that's the true history of who we are as Mississippians by and large, regardless of race.
Well, I told you this last time we were on the show. That was the reality I saw growing up in and out of my black friends. I hate that term, black friends, but gosh dang it, I don't know how else to say it for the sake of this conversation. In and out of their homes, being with their families and stuff. They all have Jesus on the wall, a picture of Martin Luther King and a picture and a Jesus on a cross.
And JFK.
Right. And I'm like, JFK would be MAGA in 2025.
You think so?
I think so. I mean, like, you look at his policies and stuff, very Trumpian. America, not wanting to go to war.
Very much so in that regard. Regard, I think also that a lot of
maybe not as much on the social safety net programs, but
that was also Lyndon B. Johnson that did that. Yeah. His vice president after the terrible thing happened with assassination. But I think that also a lot of people who were previously part of our generation and in politics, who were Democrats, would not qualify for the current Democratic Party as it is today.
No,
right?
They went past the purity test.
No. No, and I think that that's one of the things that's really bad about, you know, where we are and why we have to actually speak this gospel out to the masses is that, you know, they want Mississippi to be able to be aligned with the politics of New York, Massachusetts, and California and things of that nature. That's just not who we are. So when they go up there and they're having their meetings at a national level, they're having to be looked at, you know, like they're, you know, the stepkid or some stepchild or something like that. And bringing that back here to Mississippi, it just falls on deaf ears, and that's why they can't get anything done.
No, I was going to write this down so I didn't forget it. I'm just going to say it now. Getting a little off topic from Benny, but to this point about the Democrats and the purity test, and that's what's pushed so many people out, yourself included. I'm guessing because you're
absolutely,
you know, he's like, I can't keep going blindly with everything here. I'm afraid that's what's going to start happening with the Republican Party and a lot of these right wing conservative think tank groups that have gotten so hell bent behind school choice and wanting to ostracize anybody that's against it. And I'll call out Douglas Carswell right now with the Mississippi Center for Public Policy doing the same thing. I agree with about 99% of what they do. I disagree with school choice. I've now been referred to as the enemy. And they're going to go after any Republicans.
Oh, really?
Yeah, any Republicans that come on my radio show. And they started with my buddy Chad McMahon, senator from North Mississippi.
Sure, I know he is.
You know, and
he's for school choice. I mean, he's against.
He's against it too. He was on my show. He was against it. Now they're going after anybody that's not for school choice. Everybody has their own beliefs for different reasons for different stuff, and that's going to push people away. That's cancel culture.
Yeah,
and we're going to start eating ourselves. We just watched it happen with the Democrat Party.
Yeah,
if we allow that to happen in our party, well, with these think tankers and whoever else, we're going to push conservatives away, and he ain't gonna push me to the Democrat Party. Well, I mean, I'll just fight you over my spot in this party.
Right.
I don't care. But everybody ain't built like me.
Right.
And some people are just gonna say, okay, I'm just gonna opt out.
Right.
And
I'll just go vote, and that'll be it.
Yeah, or whatever. I won't vote.
Yeah. Well, that'd be horrible.
You know, that's what you're gonna disengage people. Because well, I'm not voting Democrat, but now the Republicans have pissed me off too. You know. That's why I like to just refer to it as conservative.
Well, you know,
thing versus Republican. I think it's an easier sell when you're trying to get rural, black Christian, unknowing conservatives to be conservative.
Yeah,
it's like, man, if you can move that R away from the name.
I think it does have a certain taint to it with some people, you know.
Yeah.
But I will say this, you know, even I think some, you know, white folks don't like being, you know, identified as just Republican.
I don't. I mean, I do. I get it for the greater, for simplifying things. But I'm way deeper than that because I'm not going along with any one party's nonsense to the point of like what I was just talking about school choice. That's a big Republican thing right now.
Right.
But it ain't for me.
Right.
Because everywhere is different. And where I live right now, it wouldn't be a good thing. You know, and the people I talk to every day don't think it's a good thing.
And politics is definitely local, and you have to concentrate on, you know, what's going to be better for you and your family or your friends in that local aspect of it. But, you know,
I'm just not going to go blindly with everything the Republican Party wants to do.
Sure.
Just like you shouldn't go blindly with everything the Democrat Party wants to do.
Right.
I think we're this close to having a true muddle in this country where people get so disenchanted with both that you have a chance to have a true muddle. Now, is that because the muddle hijacks one of the other parties? I think MAGA's done that with the Republican.
Yeah.
But inevitably, big money, big interest always take over. You know, is there a chance for the middle to hijack the left while it's in disarray? We'll see.
I don't think anybody's going to be able to, you know, move the Democratic Party
so progressive.
Yes. And you know, one of the things I would say because of that is, you know, we saw what just happened in 2024. They, you know, they haven't come out and said, hey, like Republicans did back in 2012, we're going to do an autopsy of our party and see exactly what we did wrong and how we can fix it.
They did that. I think we may have talked about this last time you were here. Yeah. I can't remember where they got up there and blamed everything on not enough gays or gay blacks and POC and this, that, and the other.
Or that
doubling down.
Sure. Well, doubling down for sure. But definitely, you know, people didn't do a good job listening to us, right? They didn't understand exactly what we were saying and why it was important. Then it's, you know, you're insulting people that they can't understand it. So we have to talk in different terms, right? Which is basically, you know, political manipulation.
Yep.
And then third, it was the fact that, you know, maybe they're just not smart enough to understand, because how could they ever think that, you know, Kamala Harris wasn't the best thing since, you know, sliced bread to lead this particular country, when in fact, you know, when she actually ran for president, she got less than 1% of the vote in the primary. She wasn't battle tested and wasn't ready for this.
She was almost this generation's Gerald Ford.
Well, it's just it was ridiculous to think that, you know, you're going to get out there and you're going to talk about all these particular things that has nothing to do with what's happening in people's real life today. Since President Trump has been elected, it is clairvoyant that he has came into that particular position full steam rolling. The amount of things that are getting done within his first 100 days in office is record setting.
It's neck breaking. I talked to a guy yesterday. He's like, I voted for Trump 3 times, but he's doing everything so fast right now. I just can't get behind it. I'm like, this is what I voted for.
That's what you voted for.
Yeah.
And it lets you know that they were actually listening, right? You said you want the border to be closed and you wanted the border to be tended to. Boom. He's done that. Yeah. You wanted to take away all these, you know, crazy secular opportunities in not in just Mississippi, but the entire country, and talk about who we truly are as Americans. He's done that. You want to focus better on the military. They're doing that. Yeah. And I think that, you know, we want to see wars end and things of that nature. That's happening. Ukraine and Russia is coming to a peace settlement, and we see that actually happening as well, too. I think that where we are right now is that, you know, the Democratic Party is going to continue to put folks up like AOC and also Bernie Sanders, who's actually a socialist, by the way.
Jasmine Crockett,
who is, you know, an embarrassment to, you know, them that just don't realize it and want to say it yet. You know, I think basically she has one job, and that is, you know,
she's a firebrand.
Well, she's a firebrand, but here's a very, I think it's a good point. With Jasmine Crockett, Representative Jasmine Crockett out of Texas, they saw that in 2024, black women were hell-bent and upset that Kamala Harris did not win the presidency, and that black women were mad at this country, and black women felt like, hey, all you other women who were, you know, who we thought were allies with us when it came to, you know, women's health care and women's rights, we saw what you actually have just done. You went and voted for Trump again. And so what the going narrative has been, black women, go take your rest. That is the actual narrative. Go take your rest.
Okay.
Rest. Meaning sit down for the next 4 years. Don't do anything. Only focus on yourself and, you know, don't focus on the Democratic Party. We're tired of trying to save the party and being the savior for all people. That is literally what the perspective is. Yeah. The nerve of it, right? That is the narrative. Jasmine Crockett is there to get those people back into the fold of the Democratic Party so they can have someone that says, oh, we have representation now. And look at the way in which she's going about doing that. It is disrespectful. It's insulting. It's stereotypical. And it is doing nothing to help advance the African American community being taken seriously in this country in politics.
I'm so glad you said stereotypical.
It's stereotypical
because she is representative of what a lot of people feel like is the black female in this country right now,
which is unfair.
It is,
and it's not true.
Because I know too many that aren't.
It's ridiculous.
A knucklehead.
It's intentional.
Yeah,
it's intentional. They feel like, hey, if I act unprofessional, and if I say things that are just outlandish and I argue to the hilt at the top of my lungs.
Knowing I'm wrong,
by the way, and you use curse words, somehow that's going to be, you know, fearful to other people. And that's what they want people to think about black women.
She comes across like every black woman you see that gets blown up on social media for doing something stupid. Like they're taking these online characters and they're saying, Let's mold that into something a little more digestible. Right. Here's Jasmine Crockett.
And that's who they are, right?
Yeah.
And that's not true.
Exactly.
And that's the problem with it. It is reverse racism, I think, you know, because when you actually this is a highly educated woman. This woman has a law degree.
Yeah.
Right? That is not how she talks in everyday life.
No.
And if it is, she still shouldn't be in Congress.
And that music video she did in her office the other day.
Oh my goodness, with the Kendrick Lamar thing.
My God.
And she did that within the halls of the United States Congress.
I know. Look, I'm all for having a little fun, you know, and everything. But I just think, man, there's a certain level with a position that it ain't supposed to be funny.
It's not.
It's supposed to be serious.
It's not.
When we come back, I'm loving this conversation. Thank you so much for coming in here and having it with me.
Oh, man, it's good. Yeah.
When we come back, I want to talk about, and this ain't a race thing at all. This is about men leaving the Democrat Party and men not wanting, not just the Democrat Party, are men becoming more sexist because of your Jasmine Crockett's and Kamala Harris's of the world and being told that we got to listen to the women and intentionally not voting for women across the board? Hold the thought. Think about it for a minute. We'll be right back on the Clay Edwards Show. breaking rules when necessary. We're about to break a couple after this ad read here on WYAB. We're welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show with my guest, SHUWASKI Young. Guys, 042 Wine and Spirits. I'm going to probably need a drink after this next topic. Get over there. See them today. Voted Rankin County's best liquor store 2 years in a row. Good stuff. They were the first liquor store in Brandon, and they've been voted the best liquor store in Brandon. I went by the other day and got a bottle of wine. They still got some of that Trump Cabernet in there. I saw it with my own eyes. You know, I brought a bottle here into the studio on election night. Now, we did not drink on the air, just to be clear there. But when I got back home at 4 a.m, I had a big old glass of that Trump Cabernet. And I had
Is it good?
It's great. I had to be right back here at 7. You know, so I got home about 2, not 4, but I think I probably got in bed about 4. Just just trying to soak it all in, man. We just won, you know, did it again. Anyway, yeah, it's really good, man.
Okay.
I mean, you know, Trump licenses his name out there and stuff,
Sure.
but I do think they have a lot of high quality stuff. So it's good, man.
Okay.
There's so many good
I'll look forward to
wines
trying
out right
some.
now. Many.
Yeah.
I like reds.
Okay.
And whatnot, but they have a Chardonnay as well, and maybe a Pinot, but I don't drink either one of those.
I used to be a pretty good wine connoisseur. These days, I'm pretty, fastball down the middle. But I love a great Malbec myself.
Nice.
Yeah.
My girlfriend likes wine, so there's a bottle at the house. I'll drink wine, but I'm real simple when it comes to my liquor. Give me beer and a shot of Fireball, or give me a good bourbon.
Yeah.
Mixed with a little Sprite on rocks.
I'm a Scotch man myself.
Nice.
When I can. Yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely.
People like what they like, man.
Yeah.
I'm very consistent.
I like bourbon too, but
Yeah. I've been drinking some Four Roses lately.
I always see it. I never get it.
Yeah, I got a bottle as a gift.
Basil Hayden is my go-to.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
I got a bottle as a gift from the 042 folks. They had a private barrel from Four Roses. And so I had a bottle, and when I had the flu for a couple of weeks. And
that helped.
And I'm telling you, I was like, man, I said, I've never drank when I'm sick.
Right.
I was like, but something's got to make me feel better. And that Four Roses was right on time.
Well, good deal.
Yeah, I drank
Good
more
deal.
than I care to admit. But you can pick up your bottle. They still have a few bottles that select 042 select barrel Four Roses over there. Swing by, see them today right next to Sonny's Barbecue on Highway 80 in Crossgates, Brandon. That's the 042, the real Brandon. All right. Man, here's a touchy conversation.
Okay.
And we're going to run over a few minutes on this one. We're going to go at least a good 7 minutes here.
Okay.
I was listening to Charlie Kirk the other day. He's on this radio station. You know Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Big nationwide guy. He was talking about young men, especially Gen Z. And he's talking about what the damage that your Kamala Harris's of the world and Ocasio-Cortez's of the Ocasio-Cortez AOC's of the world, and what Jasmine Crockett is on her way to doing. And I don't know if Jasmine's married or has kids or not. I'm guessing not. But these childless women telling everybody how they're supposed to live, waving their finger at young men. You don't do this. You don't do that. One of them the other day was, maybe it wasn't one of the politicians, but somebody the other day was saying that even men who pursue girls are stalkers. Like, I've always had to do. I always had a little chase.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, everybody likes the pursuit a little bit. If anything's too easy, you don't want it. You know, and never those things that are too easy, ain't worth keeping. But
That's what they say.
But they're redefining, like so many traditional norms. But I think they're alienating young men. I truly do, by turning them into the enemy. They've turned me into the enemy. But it makes me wonder across the board, not just on the Democrat side, if they are pushing men into a position where they say, you know what, just to be safe, I'm never voting for a woman, because they clearly don't have my best interest in mind. And I wonder if their movement is about to come full circle. Okay. And start back at the beginning.
Sure.
Sure. Not the equal rights and all that stuff.
Right.
But I mean, like, all the work that good, strong women have put in to be great leaders and to be respected. And I'll use Jennifer Branding as an example. She's solid, and I'd vote for Jennifer 7 days a week and twice on Sunday. Sure. I don't care who she's running against. Yeah. Her story's real. And, if she potentially hurts women like that, where people, where men just say, nah, I can't take a chance of getting burned. with some of y'all's crazy policies.
Yeah.
What say you?
I think, and it's a great point. I think that's what people around the kitchen table.
And I hate not having it with a woman in the room to have this conversation, but we're the other side of the coin, so we can have it.
Yeah. I think that, it's a great conversation to have, and it's a conversation that people are talking about, in their living rooms and, couples or, friends and have you. And here's the bottom line, I think. Again, we are playing culture politics and gender politics in order to gin up votes in our country. That is why those types of conversations are happening. That is why you see this, people who have made entire careers off, the intersectionality between race and gender always somehow, is being touted as even a bigger issue than sometimes race. Right. And I think that, people have made entire careers off of this, and political parties have made millions and millions and millions of dollars off this particular point. And that's what they want to do. That's the conversation that they want to have. Women are the largest voting bloc in the entire country. And if they can, make sure that those types of topics are front of mind for liberals and progressive minded people.
And now they're in college 2-1 over men.
Absolutely. Then they're going to, have more people that are now, injected into the party.
So there's I'm smarter than you mentality. Like, I would hate to be a young man on college campuses now.
Yeah.
And I think that what's going on there is creating this whole thing. I mean, like I say, just a 47-year-old dude, that kind of came up believing that women had 100% equal rights, because they do. But always just never thought about not voting for a woman for any particular reason. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, after watching what they've done, I'm like, I don't know, man, could we have somebody pretending to be a conservative to get in here and it's a woman? I'm just curious. I don't know.
Well, I think
it's a tough question to ask, but –
well, it is a very tough question, and it's a sensitive question, for a lot of women. If you're talking about any woman that's in, corporate America or, politics, or, even as, an executive in a nonprofit or any sense of business, right? And, she's unmarried or doesn't have children. That is a very sensitive topic for people to have, and it's one of which that
they chose boss babe over family.
Well, that's the accusation. Yeah, that's the accusation.
That's what people say. Like,
exactly. Right. And sometimes oftentimes it's most viewed as none of your business how I got here. You know what I mean? But,
and I want to be clear. I'm not saying this is what Clay Edwards thinks.
No, it's conversation.
For people out there listening, this is conversation. These are things that I hear people say. I'm not saying this is what I think. My mom's worked every day my entire life. She was never a housewife, and I respect that. But, a lot of people say that if you poll women and they're being truthful, are you more happy in a career or when you're at home being a mother? They say the majority say when I'm at home being a mother.
Yeah. Well, I think also people who, from a voting standpoint, you just tend to trust people who have or tend to lean toward people. Maybe I shouldn't use the word trust. Lean toward people who are being asked to lead you, right? That those, in politics especially, that those folks, you also have a resume that they actually have been successful in leading their family, whether they have been divorced or not, like that's a big deal, right?
Divorce isn't something I hold over.
That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other topic. Yeah. But you can be divorced and still have a great relationship with an ex, or you can be divorced and still have a great relationship with your kids.
Absolutely.
With over 50% of marriages ending in divorces, that doesn't need to be part of the purity test.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think that those particular types of tactics have proven not to work. The last election just showed you this, right? And I think that's part of the dogma of the Democratic Party right now, that they're going to keep trying to beat this actually home. Don't you remember all the rallies that Kamala Harris had, and the signs were trust women, which is really kind of guilting men. Yeah. Into voting for, Kamala Harris just because on the fact that she's a woman.
Think about the hit Obama took when he was got caught on that hot mic, kind of trying to guilt young black men into voting for Obama, saying she's one of y'all. She went to an HBCU. Shame on you for considering not voting for this strong, independent black woman. Yeah.
Well,
that really blew up in his face.
Well, and I've talked. It did, and I've talked about that on other shows as well too. I didn't like that. And whether I'm a Republican now, or was a Democrat later before. You know, I worked for President Obama in 3 different capacities. I worked for his campaign. I worked on his inaugural committee. I escorted Joe Biden's family into the inaugural balls. I then worked in his administration, protecting our country in Homeland Security.
I didn't know that. I guess I never asked you that.
Yeah, I was political appointee for President Obama. I was assigned to the Department of Homeland Security. I oversaw the if you see something, say something, national public awareness campaign for domestic terrorism.
Well, you know, and now the irony of that, not that you did that, but the irony of Obama leading the see something, say something is now all these communities that voted so strongly for Obama refuse to say anything when they see anything. There's this no snitch mentality, you know, in these urban cities. It's just, you know, like, man, that's another thing that is kind of cutting off your own nose to spite your face. But I understand the fear of retaliation and all that as well. I'd be growing up in those areas, I'd be ignorant if I didn't say that fear isn't founded. You know,
oftentimes people did, you know, confuse what the purpose of that campaign, and it's still there, by the way, because it's a national campaign. It's going to be there regardless of what Republican or whoever is.
As it should be. It's a great campaign.
Yeah, yeah, but it's for domestic terrorism, right? But people would, you know, sometimes use it and say, oh, if I see someone breaking in a car, if I see someone, you know, involved in some type of DV event or something like that, and use those same numbers. But it's primarily for
and I know what I'm saying is different from the initiative of the point of that, but I'm just, you know, never miss an opportunity to remind people that, you know, if you need to snitch.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, it's either, you know, that or, you know, you could be next, right?
But that's it. Well, they're like the shooting at the parade over the weekend.
Man, that was horrible.
Nobody saw nothing. Yeah, eight people got shot, 1 dead, another seriously injured, and all the witnesses. I ain't seen nothing. I don't know. Okay, but like, what do you mean you didn't see nothing? Like, did y'all think it was the rapture, and you was just the last one standing?
Well, what was ironic to me reading about that, you know, you saw a lot of people, public officials and things of that nature saying in the lead up to the parade, have a good time at the parade. Remember to be safe or be vigilant or what have you. And I think last year there was a shooting or 2 years ago there was a shooting. Pardon me. Thank you. And then now we see 8 people shot 1 day, 8 people.
Yeah.
And I was talking with, you know, a friend of mine about this, and I was saying, you know, if I'm going to go to a blues show or a St. Patty's Day parade or, you know, whatever, I don't think I'm a gun owner, right? I don't think I'm just going to be walking around with a gun on me at the parade itself, right?
Especially if I'm drinking.
Especially if I'm drinking. And I know exactly, like, why. So they went there with the intent that something could happen.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. We're going to carry some of this conversation online while we're in the break. But radio audience, you ain't going to miss anything. We'll be right back to Let me talk to the men out there listening real quick. Guys, are you suffering from erectile dysfunction, fatigue, decreased muscle tone, lack of energy, low libido, brain fog, sleep disturbances? Hey, low libido, ask your girlfriend or wife. She'll let you know if you're suffering from that or not. That's sex drive. If you'll text my name, Clay, in all caps to 601-327-8550, 601-327-8550, Men's Health of Mississippi and the Clay Edwards Show are going to hook you up with a free testosterone screening. They're located in Madison, Mississippi at 120 Fountains Boulevard. You can check them out online, menshealthms.com. But one more time, text my name, all caps, Clay, to 601-327-8550 and get your free testosterone screening scheduled today. Enjoy the rest of this show.
Yeah, man, that's something that's really
Mics are hot.
Troubling.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. About what would happen with the parade and everything. That was really, I hate to see, you know, again, it's just all this crime that you just keep
And to be
seeing,
fair, it was an after party, but the after parties exist because of the parades. It was still daylight.
It still happened in the city.
You know, it's semantics. It was the parade.
It still happened in the city.
Yeah.
You know, and once again.
On the route.
But yeah, it's just ridiculous. I mean, folks want to be able to feel safe in their communities. Yep. That's why I think there needs to be an increased presence of police officers in that city.
Agreed.
100%.
Now, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I just have to insert things every now and then.
Yeah,
you were talking about you were a political appointee for Obama.
Yeah.
And all of that good stuff. And that was awesome. I didn't know that about you.
You didn't?
Mm-mm.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I did a lot of stuff. I was a political appointee for President Obama. After, what was it, the 2012 campaign that I worked on, I went to Washington, D.C., and I worked on his inaugural committee, you know, for a couple. It's a kind of an honorary position you get, you know, if you apply for it and you get chosen. and almost ended up at HUD, working under the secretary at HUD. But, and this is a race thing too, but, there's always like this, idea in politics, like, oh, HUD, that's where they always stick to black people, right? But it's a great organization of department to work for.
Yes.
But anyway, I didn't want to work at HUD. So I turned that opportunity for interviewing down at that particular point. And then I went and worked at Union Presbyterian Seminary, worked for a seminary in Richmond, Virginia. They're a sister seminary to Princeton. And I oversaw a $75 million capital campaign there for about 16 or 19 months, something like that. And during that particular time, that's when I was also interviewing for my actual appointment. So I left, when I got that job at DHS, that's when I left the seminary and just went 99 miles down the road back to D.C. and started working for the administration.
Let me pull us back. It took me a minute to remember exactly. That's great. I want to have this conversation with you.
Sure.
But let's go back. So Obama kind of wagged his finger at black men. About not voting or considering not voting.
That's how we got on this conversation.
That's how we got on this conversation. Yeah. And I know there's people who are listening and remember that.
Why are y'all
go
talking
back
about
to
that?
the dang conversation.
Yeah. I didn't like that.
I'm the king of rabbit holes.
Yeah. Well, I digress too, folks. So I'm sorry. But I try to stay on topic. But no, I didn't like that. I think a lot of African American men didn't like that. And look, I still will always have the highest respect for President Obama. I still think he's one of the best to ever do it. I think that the administration got a lot of good things done, but at the end of the day, that comment I think was, out of bounds.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll, respectfully disagree on being the best to do it, but that's just different perspectives. And you were there and you have a personal relationship. So I understand and respect that. But I also think that if you track when race became a real big point of contention again in this country, it lined up around 07, 08 when Obama ran. And
that led to Trump.
It became this white-black argument again, and then these incidents started getting hyper highlighted, hyper attention put on them. The young black kid, Trayvon Martin, stuff like that. And some of that lines up with the internet blowing up and social media blowing up at the same time.
Yeah.
But it felt like that's when the fuse got lit again on this racial debate, and the racial tension in this country.
It's certainly, the whole Reverend Wright thing during the campaign, and he had to make the speech on race at, I think it was Philadelphia Hall of Independence Hall in Philadelphia, but it did change things for America.
Yeah, and I don't even mean it from a right or wrong perspective.
It's just reality.
But it just feels like that's about the time that things really lit up again. We're getting ready to come back from the break here. Let me talk to the men out there listening real quick. Guys, are you suffering from erectile dysfunction, fatigue, decreased muscle tone, lack of energy, low libido, brain fog, sleep disturbances? Hey, low libido, ask your girlfriend or wife. She'll let you know if you're suffering from that or not. That's sex drive. If you'll text my name, Clay, in all caps to 601-327-8550, 601-327-8550, Men's Health of Mississippi and the Clay Edwards Show are going to hook you up with a free testosterone screening. They're located in Madison, Mississippi at 120 Fountains Boulevard. You can check them out online, menshealthms.com. But one more time, text my name, all caps, Clay, to 601-327-8550 and get your free testosterone screening scheduled today. Enjoy the rest of this show. Welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show, here with SHUWASKI Young on a Thursday, broadcasting live on 103.9 FM, streaming worldwide in stunning HD, not 4K, stunning HD at Save JXN on Facebook, X, YouTube, and Rumble. And guys, you can always go back and listen to the podcast. We cut the commercials out, not the live reads, but we do cut the commercials out, try to make it a little more easily digestible. Just go search Clay Edwards Show wherever you download podcasts, stream music, or even Audible. But why would you pay for Audible to listen to something you can listen free on Spotify or Apple? But hey, whatever, however you digest it, I'm not complaining. Clay Edwards Show. Real quick, Lakeland Glass and Tint. Guys, be sure you're checking out Lakeland Glass and Tint for all of your home, car, and business window tinting needs. I got to go by there today. I got a rock pick already on the new truck. So they'll be fixing my rock pick at one of their great locations. Rock picks, I found out, they do walk-ins on those. You don't have to schedule an appointment. I think it's 8 to 4 daily or something like that. Double check with them, 601-946-1000. But you do not have to schedule an appointment to get your rock picks fixed on your windshield. So good stuff there. LakelandGlassandTint.com. Mr. Young, we were finishing up our conversation or talking a little bit about our conversation about Obama wagging the finger.
Yeah,
at black men and
folks didn't like it.
No, and I could tell. Like the temperature in the room changed a little bit, and because I just watch on X and Instagram, and I follow a lot of urban, black centric pages and stuff to kind of keep my finger on the temperature and understand, kind of see what the community's thinking and stuff outside of just my own. And I was reading the comments, and a lot of folks, didn't like that at all, and a lot of folks couldn't overcome with Kamala. Not to beat a dead horse here, couldn't overcome with Kamala and the black. Using the black stuff as such a selling point for her and trying to rally black folks around Kamala because A, she wasn't all black, she ain't all black, and B, married to a white man, and it just she just didn't. For me, is this really the one you want to champion if you're trying to sell the race aspect?
I'll be honest with you, man. You call it just as people are thinking. That the political correctness of it all is out of the door, and look. That outburst you just heard, that is an expression of how people are really talking about it, and how people really did talk about it, right? She didn't even take the white man's last name. And well, that's true too. I think that African American men, myself included, did not see themselves reflected in that campaign. Yeah, that is a fact. And I think that toward the end of the campaign, when the polling numbers for now President Trump was coming out. More African American black men are leaning toward the Republican Party. More Hispanic men are leaning toward the Republican Party, and the Hispanic and Latino voting bloc, or you should say, is a huge part of it. In places like Nevada and also in California and Texas, and that scared them. So what did they do? For the next 2 weeks, they went out and said, hey, we're going to have a rapid response campaign and let black men know that, what we're going to do for them. Because the question was, what are you going to do specifically for black men? And black men weren't saying, we want you to do something specifically for us. We were saying, we want you to uphold policies that's going to be good economically for us as it relates to business, as it relates to economic expansion, as it relates to home ownership, for all Americans, right? They missed that point.
I wish we could take the damn race box
just
off
take
everything.
That off.
Can we just take that off everything?
We need to. But here's the thing.
So that way we are all equally, at least on paper, equally, starting from the same starting
point. We need to. We absolutely need to. I believe in merit-based, right? And if you talk to anybody that worked their tail off in school and, end up getting scholarships to college. I wasn't one of them, right?
Right.
But if you talk to those people and, we had to stay committed to whatever profession that it was or the educational attainment and hard work that it took for them to get there and then now get that job, it's offensive to them to say, oh, I got this position because I'm a woman and I'm black or I'm black, or things of that nature. It's offensive.
You brought up DEI in your op-ed, if I remember right.
Sure.
And you mentioned how it actually ended up affecting white people more positively.
Number one, it affected white women more in a positive way more so than anyone.
That identify as some type of LGBTQ.
That was like number two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is what I've been trying to say. Yes, and unfortunately, but who catches the brunt of the negativity on DEI?
White people,
black folks.
Well, you mean the negativity of
the negativity?
Okay, yeah,
the public,
of course.
The reaction from everybody that
Sure.
now looks at, oh, you're a DEI hire? Are you a DEI hire?
Right.
Merit's
totally out the door.
Merit's totally out the door, and maybe this is my racism showing. I don't know. But, but when you get clubbed upside the head, you got to hire because they're black, got to hire because they're black, or DEI is to help promote black people. You see somebody black in a position, it plants that seed in the back of your mind.
Right.
Did they get that because they earned it? And when the whole damn time this was a Trojan horse to help white women and the LGBTQ.
100%.
But black people fell on the sword for them. Got bamboozled.
And then got absolutely hoodwinked. And then, I think we were like, 5 or 6 on the list, right?
Really?
It did not do what people said it did. And then here's a point. And I saw somebody actually online say this, and I think it was a good point. Dr. King, in his dream, wanted folks to be able to be judged by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin.
Yeah. Or can we add sexual preference to that now?
Well, I'm just going off what he said.
No, I know. Right. I know. I'm just saying, can we modernize it a little? Sex, who you have sex with shouldn't matter either.
Well, yeah, of course. But the point I was trying to make
should
was that
use it. Should I say? Go ahead. I apologize.
No, it's quite all right. But not being judged off the color of our skin, but the content of our character. And DEI is literally counter to that point.
Yeah.
Somehow we missed that in the black community. And then, as you're saying, as people are noting now, this was never intended to, uplift black people in that way in the first place. This is why I talk about democratic policies not actually helping us, and policies that are putting forth opportunities in American society that run counterintuitive to our own advancement.
This is policy created by progressive white women and gay men.
Sure.
I mean, I'm just going to say it out loud.
Yeah.
And one of the things that pains me the most is seeing all my black brothers and sisters that I grew up with blindly walk off the cliff following these folks. And it's so refreshing to see somebody like yourself that said, I'm taking the damn blindfold off and I'm not following. I'm not saying you were a follower, but just folks like yourself wake up and say, all right, we ain't doing this no more. This does not benefit my folks like y'all say it benefits my folks. And it's very refreshing.
Well, thank you. But with the amount of people, and I keep saying this in Clear and Ledger op-eds, and I keep saying this online and in places like today, and even on Tuesday at Super Talk, and I'll continue to do it. And the amount of pushback I get, which is fine, which was expected. But I will say this:
we're getting a lot in the comments too. I can assure you.
Well, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. But I would say this: when I first started talking about this, social media was just going crazy. Right now, it kind of has like stopped a little bit. And I said that was going to happen. I said people are not going to be able to continue to keep up with the amount of content and perspectives that I'm putting out relative to their disagreement. And just want to, get online and say whatever they want to say. Well, it's a free country. You can do whatever you want to do, right?
Yep.
But I know that they know that this is truthful.
You can only lie to yourself for so long, and even you'll know the truth. We'll be right back to land the plane for the day with SHUWASKI Young here on the Clay Edwards Show.
Yep.
We're going to stay on with the online audience for a minute.
Okay, cool.
We'll farewell to them in a second. Man, look, that's a great point. This conversation is great because, even people in the comments, like Chris says, exactly, man, I've been saying the entire time that DEI wasn't created for black people, but they're the ones but nobody wants to be told they're racist, and calling somebody racist has been the way that they have bulldozed these agendas through for a while now. Like a DEI. So when we get black people to think it's racist, that people don't agree with it, nobody will want to tell them no.
Right.
That's how
we're going to guilt
like.
them into this particular.
Like I feel like they get used as part of this Trojan horse all the time by the Democrat Party because they want to guilt white conservatives or white liberals into having to vote for this because black people said it's racist if we don't, and that has worked for so long. Yeah. And I'm glad to see people are waking up for it. I know it's one of the things I push here a lot now. You're not going to guilt me into agreeing to anything I don't agree with. You call me anything you want, just don't call me collect.
That's good. But people are waking up to it. People are now seeing that there's something to this, and that it's becoming more widespread that these conservative values, are really what's going to, be the tipping point in how we have stronger communities, how we have stronger families. If we want to call ourselves Christian, how it aligns more with the Christian belief system and religion. And I think that those are just honest truths. And the aspect of whether we're talking about what I think are real issues to be debated across politics, such as school choices we were talking about, or, the state income tax just passed, here in the State House this week.
These are things that are going to affect everybody.
Those are things we should actually be paying attention to. And those are things that we should be actually debating and be very well versed in talking about. When it comes to these culture war conversations, those are things that we need to be able to get past and just say that, hey, we know what we want our country to look like. We know what we want our families to look like. And we know what kind of communities we want to live in and be safe in. And if we can just get that stuff out of the way and start focusing on real policy issues of how we're going to create better jobs in our state, bring more business in our state, manufacturing in our state, and hire more police officers and teachers.
Supposed to be a big announcement today about Mississippi. Saw Tate Reeves tease it last night. Some economic development, something or another. No, I'm sorry. It's the signing of the tax bill. Sorry.
I think he's doing it up in DeSoto County, isn't he?
Is he? Okay.
Hernando.
Hey, look, man, that's good stuff. it's going to take 10 years to really, make
to
it count.
bring it down.
Hopefully I'll still be here in 10 years earning some income.
Yeah.
Hopefully earning more by then and can benefit from no income tax even better.
I'm trying to tell you. Well, look.
I hope to benefit well from it in the future. Yeah, man, those are big things. I think we're going to get past. I think we're on the dying end of the culture war. I really think
I believe
we
we
are.
are.
I mean, I
we
think watching the left throw a fit at Elon Musk and vandalizing Teslas.
Real domestic
This
terrorism.
is the last gasp of petulant children not getting their way or being paid to not get their way, because I think they're paid agitators.
And even people who
Some
are
are followers. Don't get me wrong. Some are just doing it because monkey see, monkey do.
Sure.
But, I think the people starting these things are paid agitators.
Agreed. And one of the points is that, even the people who are deemed as maybe 2028 presidential candidate, not top of the ticket picks like Gavin Newsom or somebody like that, they're moving to the right in their politics now.
They are, but I 100% believe he's a lizard person and is extremely fake. He's moving to the right publicly so he can look like a middle of the road candidate
for the rest of the country.
Yeah. And then he's going to get in there and go right back
to the left.
Hard left.
Yeah.
But that's just, I don't hate Gavin Newsom. He is a snake oil salesman, and he is really good at it.
Yeah.
And even I get caught up in, because I think at the end of the day, he really is just like me and you. And but he's just playing. Yeah. He's playing a character.
Yeah.
Just like AOC.
I've met him. We took a picture together once. And
welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show. Here with SHUWASKI Young. SHUWASKI, man, we got about a minute here, a little less.
Right on.
We could do this another hour, man. You could get me talking about Gavin Newsom and what all them cats are doing. All these guys wanting to be the left-wing Joe Rogan and whatnot, and trying to reach out to a masculine men and kind of get masculine men back left of center a little bit. This is a conversation me and my co-host Sean been talking about having on the radio a good bit, but we'll pick it up next time. Appreciate you so much, man. We'll be following you. I'll tag your pages and stuff and all the social media stuff for this. So people can find you.
Thank you.
Appreciate everybody tuning in. I'll be back here tomorrow with Sean Yerkron back in the studio with me for a FO Friday. Y'all get out and support these great sponsors today. We didn't talk about all of them today. I just ran out of time, but go eat lunch at one of our great sponsors. I'll see you tomorrow.